Hi everybody, this is Anne. Achieving fine line decorations in pottery, whether painted or carved, can be tricky. I'm always on the lookout for innovative ways to approach it. Recently, I saw someone using miniature X-Acto-type knives to carve fine lines in their clay. I was impressed with the results but couldn't find those cutting blades. What I did find were some retractable ballpoint pen-sized knives for scrapbooking crafts that I thought I could test for you on clay. In this video, I'll test out the cutters as well as try to give you my best tips for carving fine lines and decorating them. As you can see, they really are ballpoint pen-sized and they retract in the same way. There are 4 blades made of tungsten steel and 1 which is ceramic. The blades are beveled and they retract out well beyond the plastic case. I made several test cuts. I found that a clean line can be achieved if you pay attention to the angle of the blade bevel and the angle that you hold the tool. They also cut best on leather hard clay rather than fresh or bone dry. Now let's test them out on a project. I drew 3 small illustrations. There's a link in the description section under the video so you can print them out and follow along with me. I threw these little cups and waited for them to dry to leather hard. I turned each one of the drawings over and blackened the back with my pencil. I positioned the drawing on the leather hard cup where I wanted it, then traced over the lines to transfer it on the clay. I need deep, thin cuts so as to inlay underglaze into the carved lines. I found that if I hold the beveled tip of the pen downward, then pull the pen towards me, it'll plow through the clay, displacing the excess along each side, and I get a cleaner cut. I made sure to turn the clay surface as I cut instead of the tool, so the bevel is always plowing towards me. I was also curious if one particular pen blade did a better job than the other pens, but they all seemed to work similarly. I couldn't tell any difference when using them to cut into clay. On curved lines, I did get some burrs. It's tempting to clean those up right now, but it's much better to wait until the clay is bone dry. They'll come away without marring the clay at that stage if you're patient. I also wanted to test out designs with a little more complicated drawing. The rose has a lot more short lines and sharp pointed edges to connect. Again, I took my time but followed the same rules as the first one and it worked great. I continued with the feather illustration. Now here are 3 Susan Beers style cups that I've always wanted to throw. They're the perfect shape for these little illustrations. I carved them earlier and now they're bone dry and ready for cleanup. For this job, I'm going to use this paddle tool. It's actually labeled a cleanup tool. You may want to dampen the surface slightly with a moist sponge beforehand, then turn the tool sideways and scrape off the burrs from the surface plane very gently. It's best to scrape in the same direction as the cut lines if possible to avoid chipping. Some of the crumbs will fall into the cut lines, so I turned the tool over and used the blade to clean out some of the crumbs. Then I took my damp sponge and went over the surface lightly to pick up the rest of the crumbs and the dust. The damp sponge will also soften those hard edges along each side of your cuts and any little chips that may have resulted from the cleanup. I repeated this process for both the rose and the feather. It's fun to watch these come to life. Here they are, ready for some color. Now I'm going to inlay the lines using a mixture of baby blue and electric blue underglaze. Using a flat brush, I brushed over the carvings with a generous amount of underglaze in all directions to make sure to get it down into the cracks and tiny corners. I took my time to really let the underglaze dry completely, even where it was thicker in the crevices. Now I need to wash away the excess underglaze from around my carvings. I'm starting with a big container of clean water. I dipped the sponge in the water and squeezed it out well so it was just damp. To avoid washing away my entire carving, I'm making a firm but deliberate swipe to start. This started to soften up the underglaze on the surface. I turned the sponge over as to use the clean side, then wiped again. I found another clean part of my sponge and wiped off some of the more stubborn underglaze. I'm trying to avoid going over the carved lines if I can. I'm also rinsing my sponge out often, so I'm always wiping with a clean sponge. I repeated this step with the rose and the feather design. I think they cleaned up nicely. If you have a couple areas that need more underglaze, you can carve back into the clay before it completely dries back up and underglaze for a second time if need be. To finish these, I brushed 3 layers of Amico C11 over the outside and let it dry. On the hummingbird cup, I glazed the interior with Amico mulberry for a nice contrasting color. On the rose cup, I glazed the interior with Amico weeping plum. On the feather cup, I glazed the interior with Amico golden honey. I think these experiments were successful. The blades worked well on the leather-hard clay. I really liked how the blades came in the retractable casing like a ballpoint pen. Very comfortable to use and convenient to store. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. It also really helps us out if you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you next time in the studio.